So this is a good month. Sha'ban is a good month to fast and doing those extra acts. The karamat, or the wonders that come from the mujahada of the body are hissiya. This is what the ulama say. They're sensory type things. So for instance, man ghadda, there's a hadith, man ghadda basarahu, right? Man ghadda basarahu adhaqahu Allahu ladhatan fi ibadatihi, right? That whoever lowers his eyes, because that's struggling mujahada of the badan, because it's a sensory thing. You enjoy looking at things that give you delight. So if you struggle against that, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah will cause you to taste a sweetness in your ta'ah. So people actually get physical pleasure. In fact, some of the scholars argue about if people do ibadah because of the physical pleasure, because you can get physical pleasure in ibadah, you can get physical pleasure in prayer, you can get physical pleasure in tilawat al-Quran, literally physical pleasure. Just like other people get pleasure in their sensory things, people get physical pleasure from these things. And this is why if you look, the metaphor that, or not, the analogy that you can see of mujahada of the badan are athletes. You see, because they do incredible mujahada of their bodies, and look at the miracles. That's why people watch sports. They don't watch sports for the 90% of the game or 95% of the game that's just, they watch it for those moments where they can't believe it, right? This is why they watch. And that's why most people, they just watch the highlights on the news or something. Because they show the highlights, right, of these amazing things. That's because these people are doing mujahada of their bodies. So they get these gifts, because these are sunan of Allah. If you do these type of struggle, you'll get these results. And then you have mujahada of the nafs. And the mujahada of the nafs is fighting against your greed, your impulses, all the akhlaq as-sayya, your bad character, all these things. If you fight against those, Allah will give you understanding, right? Fahm, understanding. And some of the ulama, Allah gave them great gifts. We have ulama that were literally, like one of the great scholars of tafsir, who did a commentary on the Jalalain, Imam al-Jamal, he was illiterate, he couldn't read or write. And he taught in Al-Azhar. Khalid al-Azhari, he had big openings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was ignorant man, he was close to 40. He used to take care of the lamps in Al-Azhar, and he spilled some oil on one of the students. He was filling a lamp, he spilled some oil on one of the students, and he told him, ahmaq or something. He just said, watch what you're doing. And he felt so bad. He's a mature man, and this young student is looking at him with contempt. So he went to one of the sheikhs and he said, I want to educate myself. And he began to teach him. He was so sincere, Allah gave him big openings. He became one of the greatest grammarians of his time, and his commentaries are still read. Khalid al-Azhari. He's not even, they just call him al-Azhari, Khalid al-Azhari. You have Sidi Abdul Aziz Dabbagh. He was ummi, illiterate, couldn't read or write. And he gave commentary. He solved some problems in tafsir that if you read the Ibriz, you'll see. He solved some problems in tafsir. He used to be able to, he could do the hadith by just hearing a hadith. He knew if the Prophet ﷺ said it or not. And one of them asked him how he did that. He said, if he said it, he said, you know how in winter when you speak, you see like a steam come out? He said, when they speak a hadith, I see light come out of their mouth. And if it's not, I don't see that light. This is what he said, subhanAllah. Al-Bu Yazidi, one of the ulama, he was ummi, and Allah gave him all these knowledge. Sidi Ahmed Zarruq, one of the greatest really scholars of Ta'ifatain. He's Imam of Ta'ifatain because he was a great faqih, usuli scholar, he was a muhaddith, he was a student of Imam Sakhawi. Imam Sakhawi was one of the greatest muhaddithin. Sidi Ahmed Zarruq, his teacher, who he had his opening with, Abu Abbas al-Hadrami, was illiterate. And he actually took permission when he wrote his book on Abu Abbas. He asked him, could I correct all your grammatically incorrect statements and write them in Fusha? Really, I'm not making this up. You know, these are people who were so sincere with Allah that Allah gave them openings. And the reason Allah will keep these unlettered awliya who are given knowledge is to prove, because the karamat of the awliya are like the mu'jizat of the anbiya. So the Prophet ﷺ, when they asked Sidi Abdul Aziz at Dabbagh, somebody said to him, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya, ماذا ورثت من الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم? He said, ورثت منه أميته. You know, that I got from him his ummiyah. In other words, my knowledge is not, this is called wahbi knowledge. You have kasbi and wahbi knowledge. And kasbi knowledge is important. You have to study and learn. That's kasbi knowledge, to learn. You have to study fiqh and you work on it, you do memorization, things like that. But wahbi knowledge is what comes, من تعلم من عمل بما علم أورث الله له علم ما لم يعلم. If you act according to what you know, Allah will give you knowledge that you don't know. اتقوا الله ويعلمكم الله. It's not a jumla shartiyah, but the ulama take a ishara from that ayah. اتقوا الله ويعلمكم الله. Have taqwa of Allah and Allah will teach you. Right? It's a ishara, it's not a grammatically, it's not a jumla shartiyah. But the meaning of the condition is sound, the ulama say. That if you have taqwa, Allah will give you knowledges. And then you have mujahadatu shaitan, and fighting shaitan. إن الشيطان عدو لكم فاتخذوه عدوا. Shaitan is an enemy. And shaitan is real. You know, shaitan is real. Not with the you know, I mean, there's hadith that there's horns of shaitan and things, but you know, the popular imagination has created this image that makes people think that it's a joke. Shaitan is real. There's dark forces working in the world, and they whisper in the hearts of people.